So you have been named RFK Jr.'s campaign communication director.
I have, yes.
What is that compared to a press secretary?
Um, you know, what's interesting is none of us, at least those of us in the communications department, have ever been in politics before. So, in some ways, I would say that we run more like a team. I
Mhm.
love Stephanie Spear, who's the press secretary. She's doing a brilliant job of everywhere that maybe there's mainstream media won't want to do an interview. She's got them on podcasts. We're using social media. Everyone will talk to him. And we've achieved what no one thought was possible. We've put him in the strongest position of any independent candidate since Ross Perot. He's polling, as I said, within an arm's reach. The difference, I would say, here's how we work. She's really focused on the thousands of requests that are coming in from podcasters and news organizations. And I'm more involved with taking the interviews he's doing, especially these brilliant long form interviews he's doing, where he's giving us more context and more historical references and knowledge than any president we've ever seen. I'm taking those and cutting those into pieces and making videos that are viral sensations and really focused on, just getting his story and his voice out to the world. So
The
that's sort of
message.
the
Oh,
message.
great, great. So the big news with the campaign is that the two names have been dropped who've made the short list for the VP selection. I guess there's a deadline. In certain states, he's got to name a VP in order to get on the ballot in certain states. What is the deadline? What's the closest approaching?
Well, let me be perfectly clear. That's not my department. Okay. I am
Okay.
part of communications and getting the word out. We have a whole department dedicated to ballot access. So I don't know exact dates. I do know there was a looming date. I believe Idaho was going to close any day now, but we sued and won, saying it was unconstitutional. We were not able to collect signatures in Idaho because we don't have a VP candidate yet. I
Oh,
think it's more than 20 states have that requirement. And there are many states now that we are missing out on catching signatures, and which is shortening our window as we don't have a VP candidate. So it's a pressing issue. And by the way, an issue that is not pressing the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. I mean, we
right.
know Joe Biden will probably stick with Kamala Harris, but Donald Trump isn't being forced to choose a VP candidate. It's just one of the many imbalances in our system that are robbing us all of more choices when we go to the ballot box. But
Yeah.
we're going to overcome that. And as it's been announced, Robert Kennedy has chosen his vice presidential candidate and is going to be announcing to the world on March 26th in Oakland, California.
So he has chosen, because we've gotten the word that there's two, on the short list, Aaron Rodgers and Jesse Ventura, but
I will
he's
say that
chosen.
he has chosen amongst a very long list of brilliant and talented individuals. I was in some of those meetings, not all of them. It's been an absolute pleasure to be a part of that process. I mean, I'll just say to you, I'm like everyone else because don't come from politics. I'm a journalist, and I'm just amazingly curious. You're always wondering, like, why would they make that choice, or what were they thinking there, or why that person? And you try to figure it out. Uh, Being in the room, it's amazing what your own mind goes through on all the different variables you want to try to imagine play into it. It's been a fascinating and brilliant journey. And truthfully, Robert Kennedy is one of the most brilliant people I've ever met. I mean, I really sincerely, I'm not like working the hardest I've ever worked in my life just because it's a whim. I really think that we have a really special opportunity to have a heartfelt, thinking, knowledgeable, conscious, a person with integrity and transparency, offering to bring transparency back to our country. We see it in his interviews. I mean, whatever position he's taking, it's not because someone told him to take it. It's because he is clearly thought through in much deeper ways than any candidate we've ever seen. The same is true for watching him choose his running mate. And there's nothing that got in the way. He didn't care what people thought about who he interviewed. Every one of them having special talents and qualities. All I can say is the person that he's chosen, every one of us thinks is perfect, and that we are really excited about the next part of this journey.
So March 26th, that's the
March
day that he's making the
26th,
announcement.
Tuesday.
Oh, gonna be so interesting.
Yeah.
The two names that were dropped, obviously, one of them at least is not gonna be the named VP because you can only have one, right? But
Mhm.
both of them might not be the names. But what I found interesting, Aaron Rodgers is I that was a shock. I mean, I didn't even think that was like totally out of left field on that one there. Jesse Ventura made more sense being a former governor of Minnesota, but Jesse's interesting. His COVID stance, he ended all of his shows on RT for the longest time of like, get vaccinated, social distance.
Yeah.
I mean, he was very pro the measures, it seems. So
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot of people like Arnold Schwarzenegger, get the, what was it, get the effing vaccine or
right,
something
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
that. And he has since apologized, saying, I don't know if he's come full circle, but he said, I really shouldn't have made that statement. I think a lot of people find themselves in that position. And, to the point with Jesse,
Could
I mean,
Arnold be the VP pick? Is he
well,
allowed?
I didn't let that slip, did I?
No,
No.
no, no, but could he? I don't know if he legally can. I'm just trying to figure out if he
I
could
don't think he can,
because
actually. I don't think he can.
yeah, because he can't be president, and so if
But I
something
mean, look,
happened.
it shows though. It shows, you know, just how sort of special Robert Kennedy is. That I wouldn't say Jesse was the only one that was pro the vaccine. So these, and this is what's happening, right? Is these people that think they know Bobby because of how he's been talked about in the news. We're finding, and what we sort of say, our sort of internal thought is, you can't unhear Robert Kennedy Jr. Once you've heard him, you realize, wait a minute, this isn't the guy that I've been hearing described on MSNBC or CNN or whatever it is. He's actually really thoughtful. And I think that point about that you make about Jesse is a perfect one. I mean, this guy isn't running on a vaccine issue or a COVID issue. If he was, why would he have anyone near him that supported the product? These things don't matter to him. What matters is the overall idea that our regulatory agencies have been captured by corporations, that our government is no longer working for the people and by the people. It's working for the corporations, by the corporations. It's destroying our economy. I was just watching a video today of a young girl who's literally not able to pay rent and is can't eat and is getting millions of views. And it's literally the fate of America, a
Yeah.
nation where if you worked a full week, you could afford a home and even go on vacation. That's left us. Hardworking people are the working poor. It used to be you were a mechanic and all those blue collar jobs. Our parents, that's how they raised us. We had a home, we had a life, we went to college. What happened? Neither the Republican Party or the Democratic Party has done anything to fix that. We're all getting, it's getting harder and harder to survive. We're working harder and harder, and we're losing the American dream. And so that is what matters to Robert Kennedy Jr. is restoring the American dream. And I'm telling you, he's got a vision, and with the partner he's chosen, there is a bright light ahead and a beautiful. We are going to return to the America that we once believed was possible. It's real, it's possible. We've just got to kick the money changers, if you will, out of our government.
I'm really interested to find out who his VP pick is. A question that I have is about the logistics of this. Yeah, I've done the math on this with the electoral college, right? That's the big issue is you've got to it's first past the post to win, right? I mean, it's like you have to get the majority. It's not just who gets, or you have to get beyond the majority. You have to get the majority of all. You can't just get the majority, a plurality, I guess.
Right. They need 270 electoral.
Right, yeah, to win, right? There is a real possibility. I don't know, the way I suss it out, I don't know if Robert F. Kennedy Jr. can get past that point. I don't know, but I think there's a possibility with him in the race that none of them do, right? Like that, I think is the path to the White House for him is that none of them get it. But then that gets weird, right? Because then it goes to the House. And then
Yeah,
the
it's
House,
really bizarre, and honestly, you should really interview the true genius in our campaign, Amaryllis Kennedy, our campaign manager, who has crunched every number sideways. I'm the communications director. I take what we're going to say and make it look good and pretty, and I have some thoughts, but there is this contingency election issue, which is if no one gets to 270, then it goes to the Congress, I believe it is, to decide the president, and the Senate to decide the vice president, which would be a crazy moment in American history. But I'll be honest with you, we're not playing for that. We are playing for the win. And I just want everyone to remember what was being said about Donald Trump at about this point in the first election. No one
right,
thought he had a chance. And so we
right,
live in a world where just because people believe you don't have a chance. I think COVID shows us a lot. I think it shows you how fast people can wake up to the truth. And when we look at a 90% of people that believe in the vaccines are no longer getting it, that is such a massive consciousness change in this country. And I believe that's possible with Robert Kennedy. I think that the more that people hear, we have 8 months for people to hear what he actually stands for,
yeah,
who he actually is. And it is really hard to turn away once you've heard him. For everyone watching right now, if you have not gone, and just go to his YouTube channel or go to Kennedy24.com and just listen to these interviews. He is telling you everything he thinks. He is speaking for sometimes 2-3 hours in a podcast. You get to know who he is, and you watch the comments, millions of them. My God, this guy knows a lot, and he's making a lot of sense. So I think we're going to watch him start changing. We're very focused, obviously, on the battleground states where the contests were tight. I think once you start seeing Bobby Kennedy take the lead in those states, then it becomes possible, and you're going to watch a shift in thinking around this. And really, our only Achilles heel is the ballot. And we believe we're going to be on the ballot in all 50 states. You're going to see a majority of those happen as they open now in the next 2 months. We have a plan. Once we're on the ballot, this conversation about he's not a real candidate will be over. And
yeah,
now everyone in the news is going to have to start reporting on him. You're going to have to start interviewing him. You're not going to get away with ignoring him because your audience is saying, wait a minute, you're avoiding the elephant in the room. You're like telling me there's this close battle between Trump and Biden, who's going to win, but you're not talking about the guy that's got 26 or now 30 or 35% of the vote. Why?
yeah.
So I think mainstream media is about to lose its relevance, and we're seeing that. He's now getting the CNN interviews and the MSNBC interviews, and they can say what they want, but when he opens his mouth, America is listening.
Well, I'm glad that he is running as an independent. Definitely, we need to have the three. We need to have a break in the duopoly. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And I'm glad that he finally took that plunge. I had him on the show a few times, and he got frustrated one of the times that he was on when I kept saying to him, "Why are you running as a Democrat? Like this is not the path, man. Like you need to run as an independent or do something else, but this is not the way." And I heard later on he had talked to other people in his campaign, and he was like, "Oh, Kim's nice, but she kept trying to tell me not to run as a Democrat." Like, and I get it. He's a Kennedy, and I get it. That the Democrat Party has been, um, you know, I understood the idea, this kind of the dream of returning the Democratic Party to the party of Kennedy. But I'm glad that he woke up to that and was like, "There is no turning that party back. It
Yeah.
is lost. It's gone."
No, it really
So,
was his dream. I mean, when we first met, that's what he said. One of the very first meetings was just, I don't know, about a dozen of us in a room. I got called. I would feel so blessed to have been a part of this conversation from the beginning. But he said, um, when my father, this is what he told us, when my father ran to be, for president of the United States after having lost his brother, he really didn't want to be in politics. He didn't see himself as being the president, but he knew he was going to be asked about Johnson. He was going to be asked about the Democratic Party. Are you going to vote as a Democrat? And he said, my father realized in that moment that he couldn't say yes. As a Kennedy, we were Democrats. We weren't allowed to be against the party. And so simply to avoid being asked that question, he decided to run for president and never, I mean, this is how Bobby said it to us. I don't know if it's true or not, but I guess he would know. He said, my father never thought he would win. But what he said is, I'm going to tell the American people the truth of what being a Democrat actually means. And therefore, I just won't have to answer that question. I think he was shocked as he found himself in the winning position before his life was taken. But then Bobby said to us in the room, for exactly that reason, I now find myself that the party I grew up in is the warring party. It's bringing war on the world. It's entrenched with the CIA. It's censoring free speech. It's forcibly injecting people with untested products. And I've got to speak the truth. And he says, I'm going to run an experiment. I'm going to run the same experiment my father did. I'm going to tell the people the truth. And if that is what they want, then I win. And if it's not, I'll go to sleep at night and I'll know I did what I needed to do. And that's where we're at. But as you said, it became really clear that the I almost want to say criminality, when you don't have debates, when you do not allow the democratic process to take place inside the Democratic Party, when you don't force, I don't care if he's a sitting president and all the questions we have now about his mental acuity, if you are not, that is the purpose of debates. And
Right.
I'll say the same thing about Donald Trump. Shame on you for not being a part of the Republican debates. We
Yeah.
shouldn't be running on what you were 4 years ago. We should see how you respond under pressure right now. Are
Yeah.
you ready to lead the free world right now or not? Can you think on your feet? Can you handle hard questions? Can you be in a debate? When both of these guys avoid doing that, you are destroying democracy. I'm not going to quote Donald Trump in some quip he makes about dictatorship. That's not what this is about. You killed the democratic process, which was the process that allows us as voters to decide, are you capable? Are you the best of the best? Because if you're not, let that person be seen. And the Democratic Party would not let Bobby be seen or anyone else that was in that race. This thing is technically rigged. It's put together. And I think we all know there's no way Joe Biden, I'm sorry, and this is my own perspective, Bobby. I'm sorry, I'm going to express myself. There's no way that Joe Biden is running this country right now.
No,
There
I
is,
mean, I
there's
don't
a
who
bunch
believes that,
there's
right?
a bunch of people with lanyards. I guess he has said
Yeah.
this, lanyards that are running our country, that are puppets are puppeteering, our nation right
Yeah.
now. And clearly, they don't want to let go of that silent power. Whoever they are, they don't want to let go of that power. And their greed and their need to hold that power is putting forward one of the least capable candidates we've ever seen. And I believe they're going to lose because of it. This is how incredibly voracious that level of insanity is. They're going to kill themselves. They're killing that party. But luckily, I think Robert Kennedy Jr. is here. And I do believe he's the only one. I know for a fact. We've watched in the polls early on. He's the only one that
Mhm.
can beat Donald Trump. And I think the Democratic Party is going to wake up to that fact.
Well, it's going to be definitely an interesting election season, and it'll be really interesting when he is on all 50 states, which I do think he will get on all the ballots. It'll be interesting if they invite him to the debates at that point between
Well,
Donald
look,
Trump
no,
and Joe
well, they're going to
Biden,
have to.
if they have them.
They're going to have disinvite him. I mean, his polling shows, if he's above 15%, he's automatically on the stage. So the question is, are they going to try to pull some shenanigans and kick him off the stage because he's been at 50%
Right.
since he entered this race? And the
Yeah.
real question is Joe Biden going to be on that stage?
I think they just won't have debates. I mean, again, they'll just
That'll
they'll go.
be. I mean,
Yeah.
that literally will be the saddest day in America. And if both of those guys, if Donald Trump and Joe Biden really make that strong a statement in this nation that your political system is now dead, the way your democracy works is over, and we are not going to present ourselves to you in a debate, that's the end of this dream if we as people stand for that.
Yeah, 100%. And it'll be a harsh reality, but yeah. Well, we'll see what happens.
We
Del
will.
Bigtree, this was great. I loved having you on the show. Loved chatting with you. Loved your passion on all the subjects.
Yeah. I
Uh,
am passionate. I only have one gear. It's kind of all in, all in.
That's great. That's great. So where can people find you? Like I'll put the links down below, but I will put the so what was you said for the videos to watch Kennedy was Kennedy
Yeah, go to
uh
kennedy24.com. That's
okay.
the part of me that works for Kennedy. I have to be very careful. I also have a nonprofit. And I do the show, The Highwire. So I keep
And
those.
that can where can that be found since it's been
That's
censored so
online,
heavily?
the highwire.com. You can go on.
Okay. Okay, I will put those links down below. Del Bigtree, so great chatting with you. And people can also see you if they go to DC. They could go
I'll
and
be
see this
speaking on Monday. I'm going to be live speaking outside of the Supreme Court, talking
great.
about free speech and how important it is. I mean, Kim, can you believe how many journalists we've watched support the censorship throughout COVID? I mean,
Unbelievable.
it's
Unbelievable.
it's like putting the noose around your own neck. You are
Yeah.
destroying what is the fourth estate of this country and your importance in these conversations. We have got to have the freedom to speak our minds, or it's over. It's over.
Well, all the information for that rally is also down below. I'm sure people can also watch the live stream to it. So thank you so much, Del. It was really great chatting with you, and best of luck with everything.